Dear students, welcome all to this tutorial session on cost accounting. As you know, the basic objective of cost accounting is to ascertain and control cost. An organization which is able to minimize the cost of production and distribution can only will survive in today's most competitive business environment. Only when the firm is able to reduce cost and possible to distribute the goods at a price which is fair to the consumers will be acceptable by the public. So in that sense, cost is one of the most important element to be learned in detail by the students of business and management studies. So in cost accounting, there is a module on various elements of cost. Basically, there are three elements of cost. One is material, second one is labor, and the third one is overheads or other expenses. And in this tutorial, I would like to give you the basic concept regarding the material cost. And material is considered to be the most significant element of cost as compared to other two elements of cost, including labor and other expenses. Material is considered to be the most significant one. And let us see what is the structure of this tutorial session. So first of all, we could have an understanding about about the meaning of cost. Then there is an overview on various elements of cost. Then the meaning and types of material cost. Then purchasing of material, that is both the meaning and definition, and also the methods of purchase of materials that can be undertaken by an organization, including centralized purchasing and decentralized purchasing. Let us see first of all the meaning of cost. So cost is very familiar to you. Simply it is the expenses incurred for undertaking various activities of an organization. So cost is the monetary value which is associated with the production and distribution of goods and services. We can see that in order to run a business organization, we have to incur many types of expenses. In the case of a manufacturing concern, you can see that we have to spend money for the purchase of raw materials. We had to spend money for the purchase of other supplies, including tools, equipments, etc. And we have to get labor service at a cost because we have to pay remuneration to the laborers for their services. And we have to incur so many other expenses within the factory, then for office administration, then also for in connection with the selling of goods and services, and also in connection with taking or distribution of goods to the destination. So cost will be incurred in the factory, in the workplace or office, or in connection with the sales and distribution. And as I already said, there are mainly three elements of cost. So let us see in brief an overview of what are different elements of cost. So this diagram or chart gives you an overall picture about various elements of cost. So there are basically three elements of cost: material, labor, and other expenses. And material includes, and all these elements, that is material, labor, and expenses, again divided into two categories. One is direct and indirect. So material is the direct material and indirect material. Labor is there as direct material and indirect material. And expenses is also there as direct expenses and indirect expenses. Then you can see that all the indirect expenses, that is indirect material plus indirect labor plus indirect expenses, constitute different types like production overheads, administration overheads, sales overheads, and distribution overheads. So all the indirect expenses collectively called overheads, and those overheads may be of four times categorically, that is production overheads, administration overheads, sales overheads, and distribution overheads. So this diagram gives a complete picture about the various elements of cost. So once more, Elements of cost basically classified into three as material cost, labor cost and expenses. Material again divided into two as direct material, indirect material. Labor again divided into two as direct labor and indirect labor. Expenses also divided as direct expenses and indirect expenses. Then all the indirect expenses collectively called overheads, and those overheads will be production overheads, administration overheads, sales overheads and distribution overheads. So let us move on to the first element, that is a basic element of cost, that is material cost. So material cost, you can see that it is the cost incurred in connection with the acquisition of raw materials which is needed by a business organization. So in order to manufacture and process or produce goods or to render services, certain raw material may be needed by the business organization, and for the purpose it has to acquire the required material, and for the acquisition or procurement of material the organization will incur a cost, and that cost is called material cost. And by looking into the cost structure of a manufacturing concern or a production concern or a processing industry or a mining industry, we can see that material constitute a major element of total cost of production. Because according to various surveys conducted on the cost structure of different manufacturing companies, it is the outcome derived is that about 60% to 70% of total cost of production is actually constituted by the material cost. So in that sense, material cost is the major element of cost as compared to labor and other expenses. And the total cost of a product can be controlled or reduced drastically by an effective and efficient usage of materials. So if an organization is able to control, that is good control, have good control over the material, naturally it is possible to minimize the cost of material, and thus it is possible to reduce a land share of a total cost of production of the business organization. So controlling material is considered to be one of the most important tasks or duty to be performed by every business organization. Then material cost is classified, as I already said in the diagram, material cost is classified into two as direct material cost and indirect material cost. Let us see what is about a direct material cost. So direct material cost is that material cost which can be easily identified and attributable to a particular product being manufactured. So if it is possible to identify a particular material cost with a particular product, then we can say that is a direct material cost. For example, in the case of a furniture, you can see that wood is the material there. We can allocate that particular cost of wood to that particular furniture. For example, if the organization produce a chair, an item of furniture, chair, then the wood used in the chair is considered to be the direct material cost, because the entire expense spent by the organization for the acquisition of the wood required for that chair can be allocated to or identified to, attributable to that particular chair itself. So such a cost can be called a direct cost. And in the case of a ready-made garment, you can see that cloth is a material and the cloth is the direct material, because we can directly charge, right, or we can directly identify that particular cost of cloth to a particular ready-made garment. So that is one of the most important concept of a material, that is a direct material. And that direct material can be directly charged or allocated to a particular product, that is a cost center or cost unit. And all costs which are incurred to obtain direct material are known as direct material cost. So in order to procure direct material, an organization incurs certain expense or cost, and that can be referred to as direct material cost. So direct material cost is the cost which is incurred for the acquisition of direct material by a business organization. Okay, then let us see what is about indirect material cost. So material which cannot be conveniently identified and attributable to a particular product are known as indirect material. But those materials are also required by an organization for the production or manufacturing. That is, apart from the direct material, certain material which may not be conveniently identified or charged or attributable to the product is also used. and that material is called indirect material. For example, a simple example, while making a shirt, cloth is the direct material, but the buttons, then yarns, etc. used for stitching or any other purpose will become a part of indirect material. And that button may not be directly charged to that product only, because buttons may be purchased plenty that can be used for thousands of shirts and also other ready-made garments. Okay, so we cannot directly charge the entire cost to a particular shirt in that case. So we can say that that is indirect, because that cannot be identifiable and chargeable to a particular cost center or cost unit. At the case of furniture, you can see that while making chairs, we may require Fevicol gum. Gum may be required, and this gum is an indirect material. But wood is a direct material. But without gum, it is not possible to produce that particular or make that particular chair, because we have to paste certain parts of the woods by using this type of. And nails are used. Nails are used for the production of this particular chair. Okay, so that is about indirect material, and such cost do not form part of finished product. But the material cost is entirely or completely a part of finished product, but the indirect cost is not a part of finished product. And it is not possible to charge or allocate indirect material cost to a particular cost center, means a particular product entirely, completely. But over and above that, or without allocating entirely to a particular product, it will be apportioned or divided among various products on a proportionate basis. So many bases, suitable bases are selected. On the basis of that, the cost is to be apportioned between various products or various cost centers. Okay, that is one. Then all cost in connection with indirect material are known as indirect material cost. Okay, so that is about the direct and indirect material cost. Then we can see what is purchase of material. Purchasing is the art of acquiring or procuring materials of right quality at the right time, in right quantity, at the right place. So we have to purchase material whenever it is required, that is at the time when it is required, but in the quantity which is required, from the place where it is available at the most favorable terms. Okay, so purchasing means acquisition of material at the right quality, at the right time, at the right quantity, from the right place. Okay, and it is an important activity, as wrong purchase leading to increase in cost and affect product quality. So if there is any mistake while purchasing the material, that mistake will be there reflected in the product also, because the quality of the product may be deteriorated or the cost of the product may be affected. Okay, so a wrong purchase will definitely lead to an increase in cost or certain product quality deteriorations. And that is why Alfred Beatty gives a definition that purchasing is the procuring of materials, supplies, machines, tools and services required for the equipment, maintenance and operation of a manufacturing plant. So this is a very simple definition. So purchasing is the procuring of materials, supplies or machines, tools and services required for the equipments, then maintenance and operation of a manufacturing unit. Very simple definition. So purchasing is the most significant part of activity of a business organization. Then generally, separate purchase department will be there in every business organization, and that department will be headed by a purchase manager who is qualified professionally for that particular post. Then this department is entrusted with the duty of purchase of entire materials needed by the organization at the most favorable terms and conditions by ensuring quality. So here most favorable terms and conditions means best quality products at the most lowest price with all types of discounts, quantity and price discounts, etc. from a reputable and creditworthy and reliable supplier. And in the case of a small organization, there may not be the need for a separate purchase department. The production department or the storekeeper may solely can raise purchase orders and make the activity of purchasing. But in a big organization, there will be a purchase department headed by a qualified person called a purchase manager or supply manager. And let us see, there are methods of purchasing next. That is, there are two methods of purchasing. One is centralized purchasing and the second one is decentralized purchasing. Let us see what is about centralized purchasing. So centralized purchasing is a method of purchasing where all the purchases of the organization will be entrusted and executed through the purchase department. So in an organization there may be 2 or more or 5 or 6 production departments engaging various, there is production of various products, many products. And all these production departments will need for materials. But under centralized purchasing, all these departments are instructed to give their requirement to the purchase department, and the purchase department is the sole authority which is authorized to make purchases for these whole departments. That is, each and every department is not in a position to make their own purchase orders. So purchasing is centralized in such organizations in purchasing department. Okay, so centralized purchasing is a method of purchasing where all the purchase of materials and supplies required by the organization will be being done by the purchasing department itself. Different production departments of the organization has no authorization to make their own purchases. Okay, they have to, that is the different departments which are in need of materials have to give a requisition called purchase requisition or material requisition to the purchasing department, and the purchase department will collect all those requisitions, and on the basis of that the purchase department will proceed with centralized purchasing by consolidating all such requisitions. Okay, so the requisitions or request from all the departments will be collected by the purchase department, and after that consolidate it, and the purchasing will be done at one time by the purchasing department itself. So this is the case of centralized purchasing, and this type of centralized purchasing is applied generally in case of large business houses. Okay, so that is centralized purchasing. Then we can see what are the advantages of centralized purchasing. So you can see that whenever the purchasing is centralized, it is possible to purchase a very huge quantity at a time without going for a limited quantity of purchasing frequently at many times. Okay, so naturally there will be a reduction in cost of purchasing, one of the advantage. The purchasing cost can be reduced if a large quantity is placed for purchasing. Okay, then there will be economies of large scale purchasing. So whenever the goods are purchased on big lots or in a huge quantity or large quantity, naturally the cost in association with the transportation, carrying, etc. will be reduced much. So we can get economies of large scale purchasing. Quantity discount will be provided by the organization. Price discount will be provided by the organization if a large quantities are purchased at a time. Okay, so economies of large scale purchasing will be there. Then another important one is that in centralized purchasing, it is done by the purchase department headed by expert in purchasing, professionalized person called a purchase manager or supply manager. So expertise, knowledge and practices from professionalized, skillful and experienced purchasing official can be possible if there is centralized purchasing. Then another fourth important advantage is that favorable terms of purchasing can be undertaken. I already mentioned that whenever large quantities are placed before a supplier for supply, naturally he will ready to give so many favoritism to the organization, like discounts, price reductions, price discounts, quantity discounts, etc. So favorable terms of purchasing can be undertaken. Free transportation may be given. Okay, so like so many facilities or so many economies may be given by the supplier in such a cases. Then better control can be possible. If purchasing is at a centralized place, naturally it is possible to put all the efforts to that particular place, and all other problems in connection with the dispersion of stores or materials will be avoided. Okay, so better control can be possible if purchasing is made at one place, that is centralized place. Then another important one is that it is possible to keep all the records relating to purchasing at one place. All the records relating to purchasing can be kept at one place. There is no distribution of records at various places of the organization. We can get all the records from the purchase department itself. So it is possible. Then it facilitates uniform purchase policies. Uniform purchase policies can be possible, procedures can be possible, and uniform practices can be possible, because purchasing is done by one department, that's a purchase department. So uniformity in all the procedures, practices and policies of purchasing can be possible. Then duplication efforts can be avoided. So centralized place is that place is responsible for the purchase. So all types of duplication will be eliminated. Okay, so that is another important one. Then it helps in achieving product standards. So standardized product can be produced out of the material which is rightly purchased by the purchase department under centralized purchasing. So the material purchased will be at the most favorable terms from the good reliable customer, creditworthiness customer. Naturally the quality of the material will be okay. So whenever quality materials are used, then the product standard can be established. Okay, so standardized product can be produced if there is centralized purchasing, because quality material is there. Then good liaison between production and the service department can be possible. So you can see that here production departments will be get service of the purchase department. So purchase department is the service department. Okay, so good liaison or good relationship between the purchasing department and production department can be possible if such a centralized purchasing is there. Then seller is also benefited. That's a supplier is also benefited because he is relieved from executing many number of orders. He can execute all the material, that is a huge quantity of material, with the one order itself. So there is no need for looking for or executing many orders by the suppliers, so he also will be benefited. So these are some of the advantages of centralized purchasing. One more list out, that is reduction in cost of purchasing can be possible, economies of large scale purchasing can be possible, expertise, knowledge and practices from the professionalized, skillful, experienced purchasing officials can be possible, then favorable terms of purchasing can be undertaken, better control can be possible to keep all records related into purchasing at one place, then facilitates uniform purchase procedures, policies and practices, and duplications, all types of duplications can be avoided, and it helps in achieving product standards. Then good liaison between the purchasing department and all other production departments, etc. can be possible. Then the supplier is also benefited because he is relieved from executing many orders at a time by a single order. Okay, so but it has so many limitations also. Disadvantages of centralized purchasing, let us see. One is the possibility of delay in purchasing, because the purchasing department has to place an order only when the requisitions from various departments will be collected. So it has to wait till the request from the last department is also received in the purchase department. So delay in purchasing may be there. Then another important one is that the different branches, if the organization has a branch at a far place, at a different locality, then that branch is not in a position to make their own localized purchasing. Because if the branch is authorized to or is able to make purchasing locally, then certain local advantage may be there. But that cannot be possible in a centralized purchasing, because for that branch also the materials will be purchased by the centralized purchasing department at the head office itself. So the branches, if any, are unable to make a localized purchasing and take advantage thereof. Okay. Then another important one is that in centralized purchasing there is a need for a establishment of a purchasing department, and whenever there is establishment of purchase department, naturally a huge cost of investment is necessary. Fund is to be invested more in order to establish a purchase department. So initial cost will be necessary, that is a large or huge initial cost will be necessary whenever there is centralized purchasing. Then last point, there is chances of misunderstanding between the purchase department and branches or other departments, hence possibility of wrong purchase will be there. That is possible. That is misunderstanding between the purchase department and other departments may be the branch may be the other production departments may be the. So due to this misunderstanding, the purchase department may make certain wrong purchases. That also will be possible in centralized purchasing. So these are some of the limitations or disadvantages of centralized purchasing. That is, there is possibility of delay. Then the branches are not able to make their own localized purchases and taking advantage. Then the organization has to incur a huge initial cost, as there is the establishment of a purchase department, and also there is the chances of misunderstanding between the purchase department and other branches and other departments of the organization, and that may lead to wrongful purchase. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages. So that is about the centralized purchasing, advantages and disadvantages. Then let us see what is decentralized purchasing. So decentralized purchasing is a method of purchasing where the purchasing is vested with the respective production departments and branch itself. So if in an organization 3 production departments are there, which are in need of 3 types of materials, then all these 3 departments are authorized to make their own purchases. So purchasing is not centralized at a place that is called a purchase department, but instead of that, the purchasing can be done by the departments themselves individually. That is the decentralized purchasing. So method of purchasing of material and supplies by different branches and different departments of the organization by themselves. Okay, and the departments can purchase with the vested autonomy to purchase their requirements. With their own independence, they can make purchases by their own. Okay, and generally no need for centralized purchase department. So in case of decentralized purchasing, there is no need for a centralized purchasing department, because the production department themselves can make purchases. Okay, then it is generally adopted by small business organizations where a purchase department is not established and working. Okay, then let us see what are the advantages of decentralized purchasing. One is no delay in purchasing. Prompt purchase can be possible because the production department themselves can make orders for purchase at their own time. There is no need for giving requisition to the purchase department and then to supplier, etc. So they are in a position to make their own purchases, so there is no delay. Then the branches of the organization can make their own local purchases. So whenever local purchases is possible, naturally they can take advantage of the local purchase. Okay, that's another one. Then there is no need for establishment of purchase department. So huge initial cost is also not needed by the organization. Then there will not be any controversy between the purchase department and other department, because there is no intervention of the purchase department for the purchase. Departments themselves can make their own purchases. So there is no controversy, no interference. Okay, and a wrongful purchase may not be there because the departments themselves purchase the material required by them. So there will not be any mistake in the purchasing. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of decentralized purchasing. That is, no delay will be there. The branches can make a localized purchasing. Then huge initial cost is not at all required in this case, and there is no controversy or conflict between the purchasing department and other department, and there is no possibility of any wrong purchasing by the departments. Okay, then let us see what are the disadvantages of decentralized purchasing. Okay, so this is the concluding slide of this particular session. So let us see what are the disadvantages of decentralized purchasing. One is possibility of increase in cost of purchasing. So many orders are placed, so ordering cost will be more, carrying cost will be more, and transportation, all other cost, whatever the cost, that will be increase in the case as compared to centralized purchasing in case of decentralized purchasing. Then definitely there is no scope for any economies of large scale purchasing, because small quantities are actually demanded by each individual departments by themselves. So naturally there is no possibility of large scale buying or purchasing, so no economies can be gained. Okay, then there is no scope for expertise and knowledge, because there is no purchase department here. If there is a purchase department, a professionally skilled person will be there, but he is not here. His expertise is not used here. So naturally, it is not possible to have an expertise to purchase. Okay, so there may be certain problems in connection with the purchasing. Okay, then better control cannot be possible because of decentralized purchasing. That's another important one. Decentralized purchasing leads to purchases at different parts of the organization. There is no centralization of purchasing. So naturally, whenever the dispersed purchasing will be there, naturally controlling at various places also will become a difficult task as far as the organization is concerned, and the number of orders also large. Okay, then problems in keeping purchasing records, another important. In centralized purchasing, all the purchase records kept at the purchase department at one place, there is no problem. But in case of decentralized purchasing, the records will be kept by the different departments. So at different sections or different divisions or departments of the organization, the records are being maintained. So that is another important problem. Okay, then heterogeneous purchasing policies, purchasing procedures or purchasing practice may be adopted within the same organization. That may be possible. There is no uniform policy regarding purchasing, uniform procedures for purchasing, uniform practices for purchasing, because purchasing will be done by different departments at their own autonomy or independence. Okay, in such a case, the heterogeneity may be there in purchasing policies, procedures and practices. That is one another important disadvantage. So let us discuss once more the disadvantage. That is, there may be the possibility of increase in cost of purchasing, economies of large scale purchasing will not be obtained. Then there is no scope to get skillful purchasing practices because of lack of a purchase department and absence of a properly skilled and talented person, then better control cannot be possible because of the purchasing at different sectors with a large number of orders. Then there are problems in keeping purchasing records because at different places the records are being kept. Then heterogeneity is there in connection with the purchases policies, procedures and practices. Okay, so this is the end of this tutorial, and we can see that in this tutorial we are just learned about what is meaning of cost, then what is about different elements of cost, then what is about material cost, purchase of material, then also different methods of purchasing like centralized purchasing and decentralized purchasing. So this is the end of this session. Thank you.